Well, everybody, we are here at just outside of De Leon, Texas, with some NCHA legends and heroes back here. We hope you enjoy this special episode. We just wrapped this up. We're going to bring up some really cool history. Lots of stories from Mr. Gary Bellenfant, Ronnie Rice, Mike Mowery, all hosted and emceed by Mr. Kelly Graham. And I think you're really going to enjoy this special episode.
Junior Gray had a stud for Brady's
Sandman
grandfather.
Freckles Sandman.
Yeah. And remember when they just used to have those aluminum panels across behind the judge's chute and everybody wrapped their using horses all the way across there? Well, Junior had Brady, he was about 12, I guess, riding a stud around back there, and he stopped to watch somebody. And the stud mounted one of them using horses. And Brady's sitting on him. And Brady's just sitting there. He just go.
I believe
It's the funniest thing I ever saw.
He stayed on the horse?
Yeah, he's just sitting. He's kind of looking at him and just. And Brady gets so mad whenever I bring that up. Golly.
We've got it on tape now, don't we, Mark?
Oh no!
Hey, you and you need to do to him. Hey, Brady, we got a little issue. It's not one of those runs you just watch. You guys watch this as a group, and just put what he just put in there. All right, we're sitting here today. We're brought Ronnie Rice, Mike Mowery here with us. Going to aggravate Mr. Gary Bellenfant a little bit. Gary, your background, you got to work around some real horsemen. We can't ever forget that.
Yeah, some damn good horsemen.
Kind of share with us some of the guys that meant a lot to you back in those days before you even got around to cutting horses.
Well, Bobby Ingersoll was one. I worked for him. Ronnie Richards, 2 or 3 times I worked for him. Harold Farron, same there. I worked for him. Every time he'd break a leg, I'd go back to work for him. Mm-hmm. And there's Don Dodge. There's a bunch of them.
So you got to look at a lot of different ways to go about training a horse.
Yes.
Lots of different ways to go about it.
Yeah.
Then when you can kind of converted, and that's a whole other story, but when you got towards the cutting horses, what was the first year you came to Texas for the fraternity?
1976.
76?
Yes, sir.
What was your horse's name? You remember?
What was her name?
I was trying to think of that the other day.
My Sandy Rocket.
Okay. Everybody remembers their first fraternity. How does yours go?
Well, everybody's got a better memory than I do, because all I know is I didn't make any semifinals.
So you didn't get interviewed or anything?
No, I didn't get interviewed till.
In your mind, what's the first time you come down there that you thought, I got a really good shot to making the finals? How soon after 76 was it?
Well, I made it in 78, but I wasn't that enthusiastic about it. I had this little old dock bar mare that, I broke her and rode her all the way through the finals of the fraternity and never one time had a pair of spurs on, ever. She was that goofy and juicy. And but I made the finals on her. And but that in '79, that horse up there, I liked him pretty good.
The little sorrel ball-faced horse.
Bear Hug Bars.
Bear Hug Bars Jr.
Yeah, and I made the finals on him. And but I didn't, like on that mare, I really didn't anticipate making the.
Well, I can remember, basically all of us practiced at the same place. Seemed like a Sweetwater. You kind of see what everybody was dealing with and what they ended up showing you at the fraternity and what have you. Is there a horse that ever just surprised you that you wasn't really ever happy with it ever, but it's really surprised you when the money was down?
Gosh, not many, but the year that I won on Pepto, made the finals on a little black mare that I wouldn't have. And the only reason I showed her was Bayou Shorty colicked and had to have surgery at Sweetwater. And the same people happened to own her. And so I showed her and made the finals, and she was just a horrible little wench. I would have never thought I would make it past the first go-round.
What's the horse that it wasn't training? Like, you wake up every morning and you're looking forward to it. Has there been more than one?
Yeah, well, probably 3. You remember Jim Solano?
Yep.
And Pepto. And I always say he ain't trained yet. I mean, there wasn't no training. You just worked him 2-3 cows a day. And the same with Mink. There wasn't much training.
Just show him what you wanted.
Yeah, and I used him a lot around here. I used to tell people I bet you could turn him loose and he'd load a truck himself. But I used him for everything.
So he was a lot like Booger's Kevin?
Booger's Kevin?
We tricked you right there. That's a Tim Stewart question. I kind of curveballed you right there.
Yes.
Yeah, what about that question?
That was a good horse.
But he made you work at it.
Yeah.
Some of them may make you work at it, and some of them just show them the way, huh?
Yeah.
But you still got to fit them.
What about Bayou Shorty?
He may be the best one I ever rode. I don't know.
But did he make you work at it, or?
Yeah. Only the first year and a half.
Yeah. Okay.
He run by every cow I cut for, I don't know how many. I mean, I worked that horse harder probably than I've ever worked any horse. But when he got trained, that was it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
What was your first year that you considered you were training cutting horses only? Would that have been 76?
No, I still showing. I showed. I think the last time I showed a snaffle bit horse was 81, and then I quit riding them.
So and then early 81 issues went to straight cutting only.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously where your background was, what you were doing, you changed things as you went along. I mean, everybody keeps changing. What in your minds when you woke up one day and I ain't doing this no more like this, I'm going to change? Is there any certain day or change that you ever made that you thought, I'm kind of taking a gamble here, but I want to change some things?
I don't know about a certain day, but I started. I think it was 81 or 82. We were down there at that Rose Palace at San Antonio. We'd been to Creesville Springs, I think, and I was hauling on my ring. And one day they had a 4-year-old deal that I didn't even know they had. And there wasn't going to be any open cutting that day. So I just was there at the arena going to watch. And Shayla was riding that little old Dolly Olena that mare she won the Super Stakes on. And she's all dressed up, ready to go, but she rides by me. She said, "Say, I need to go to town. Would you show this horse for me?" I said, "Well, sure." So I went and got my leggings and I got on her and I loped around a little bit on the long lead and went to stop her and back her up, and she turned her head sideways, opened her mouth, and didn't back up. And then so I thought, well, I knew better than to mess with it, you know. And but when they turned the cattle in, I rode up by that. They just had one judge to pickup arena, and I rode up by that pickup. She's looking at it. She's moving her head and licking her lips. I could just barely pick the reins up. Boy, she'd back up. As long as she could see a cow, she had more handle than anything I'd trained. And and Buster was showing Peppermint Twist, and of course I couldn't beat him on her, but he won both go-arounds in the finals, and I won second in both go-arounds in the finals. On this mare, this 4-year-old mare, and the whole time, every time I showed her, I was embarrassed because here I was hauling a 10-year-old horse. I mean, I cut on that mare with my hand on her neck. I mean, I could just put her anywhere I wanted. And I thought, well, you know, there's got to be something to this, because that 4-year-old was broke 10 times better than my old horse.
But the word broke means a lot different things to different people.
Completely different. To me, it's a mentality, not just what shit you can put on him. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh. But you know, to me, it's a maturity.
So you got to feel it, though.
Oh, yeah.
You got to feel that difference, not just watching from afar.
That's when I thought, man, there's a better way of doing this than what I'm doing.
So in your head, what did you do? What did you start trying to kind of do on your colts to try to create some of that feel?
Well,
just more cow-related stuff.
Yeah, just you know, and bothering Buster to death, and went out there and worked with him a lot. You know, when he was out there at Merkel, and just you know, and then I started showing. I showed several of his, and Miss Groves had me show Miss Peppy also somewhere, and those horses were just so different than mine, and it didn't have anything to do with any dry work, or, you know.
But you got to feel it firsthand. That probably made a really big difference, rather than just watching.
Yeah, otherwise I'd probably still be
spinning,
hauling around,
just spinning in the wind.
Yeah.
How much did the snaffle bit part of it help as you went into cutting?
Very damn little, other than just experience. But I don't even own a snaffle bit.
I don't either.
And so to me, it relates very, very little for what I think a cutting horse is.
Yeah.
Not, you know, it actually, you know, it helped at a certain point there at the beginning, because I knew how to make a horse do something. But once I got to a certain point, to me it was all a detriment.
Yeah, okay.
You know.
But you know, like out there, your background with Ronnie Richards and those kind of fellows, the word broke means a totally different thing.
Oh, yeah.
To us down here,
Yeah.
it just means a lot, different things to people.
You sure
So
does.
when did you run into this Mike Mowery character?
It was 1975. We both lived. Well, he lived at. Where did you live? Cave Creek.
I think so.
Hmm.
I think.
And
Well,
I was
think
there at Dawn's.
I was working. I went to work for Shorty, New Year's Day, '75.
Okay.
So
Well, and that's when I went to Dawn's in October of '75, I think. in
See,
Scottsdale.
I went to Tucson first year, the next
Yeah.
year, and then I went to showing some. That's when we got more acquainted. You showing that little yellow mare, Doc's
Yeah.
Date Bar.
Yeah.
So you probably felt like you were on your own. You didn't have really anybody you could visit with when you changed. It felt like when you got to the cutting
No,
deal.
because I didn't know anybody in the cutting deal.
So you,
Except Don, but you know, he'd had the ring cow horses
Yeah.
before, so I knew Don.
yeah.
But
And by then he was kind of out of the cutting,
well, he was
kind of at the tail end, pretty good.
yeah.
Did you have to? Who back in those days when you and Mike ran together? Who took care of who? Do you have to just kind of
Well, we alternated.
alternating?
Yeah,
Because putting it all on one guy all the time would wear the other guy out.
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, but we took turns taking care of one another. Depending on what night it was, what girls were there.
Yeah.
Well, this kind of come off the top of my head, but you know, these mechanical cows and the flags and all the, you never really went that direction at all, did you?
Well,
Until you had to.
Let me tell you what I did. In 1980, I worked a flag for 30 days, the bicycle kind. And I started, I don't know, 10, 12, 2-year-olds on it. And then I worked my older ones on it too. And just wrecked the older ones. It wrecked their timing completely. But I didn't know how. I mean, I just said, better go that way real fast. Go back that way real fast.
Get that breed of horse. We weren't riding those kind of horses yet
no.
that could just work
No.
anything.
But anyway, with those older horses, when I started them back on a cow 30 days later, their timing was haywire. And my 2-year-olds, they were just as dumb. And I had every one of them where I could back them up on them ends, they back up, and then they swoop through there. I thought, man, this is the deal.
They didn't know why or how come though.
When I put them on a cow, it didn't make a damn bit of difference. And everybody tells me, well, you didn't do it right. You should have done that one day and worked the cow the next and all that. But I just soon work a cow.
Yeah. I think that's kind of changed. I think people now would just rather work a flag anymore than fight all the uncontrolled you have with a cow anymore. So that's really changed to me.
Yeah.
People are very comfortable with it.
But
It has its purpose, but it don't replace the cow, especially the real cow horse.
And to me, I mean, everybody works it and makes good horses, but to me, you have to sure enough be a horse trainer to train a horse on the flag. Mm-hmm. And you can't just, to me, you can't go work it like you would a cow, or you do like I did, mess them up.
Like how would Pepto, how would he accept a flag?
Oh, I don't know if he probably would.
He would have?
Oh, I'm guessing he would have. But I remember one time, Paul used to accuse me of working it all the time because he bought a little, or Mary Bradford bought a little mare I'd trained, a 3-year-old, bought her when she was 4, and he said she worked flag better than any horse he had. But I'd never worked a flag on her. But he accused me of it, of course.
He's tad ornery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, we've talked to quite a few people now, and everybody's, is there, this is probably a tough question to answer, but do you feel like it's all the work, all the years done, that you learn more from people training a horse, or you learn more from the horse? What's all said and done, did you just really go by listening to that horse, or you had some great people in your background to listen to?
Yeah, but you listening to somebody and grasping what they mean is two different things.
Yes, sir.
And so I think, like a lot of times, I remember somebody said something a long time ago, and I never did put it together. And then I might now. Mm-hmm. I might think, oh, this is what Buster was talking about. Well, I didn't get it then.
But your background, you came from some fairly verbal people, weren't they? Like to help you. Mm-hmm. We've talked about Shorty Freeman a lot. Some of these, there's no words, or you better watch.
Yeah. You
better watch. That's where you're going to learn from him.
Yeah.
But Ronnie Richards was fairly verbal with what he was doing, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. Really, all those fellows.
But Ronnie, he had the most incredible feel in his hands and feet and seat. He really had no blueprint. I mean, he just went by the seat of his britches. And I used to tell him he was the greatest con artist with a horse ever. You know, he could just mess around and get him to do it.
Just trick him into
He
everything.
didn't say, okay, when I do this, you do this.
Just trick him into it.
Yeah. Ronnie was just phenomenal.
Yes,
that
he
way.
was. Yes, he was. Did you around him any, Ronnie?
No, I was
He-
not.
he was-
I never met the man. But I thought, as far as showing wise, in this generation here, I thought Mike was probably about as good as anybody I'd ever seen. I mean,
Well,
horse just be shitting on him all over, and he just sitting up there, and next
Yeah,
thing you know, he won the cutting.
Yeah.
Where
Sell it.
I'm mad
And that
because
was,
my horse is not trying to help.
and that was just from pure ignorance because I didn't have the background of the horsemanship or, in my opinion, the stability of my confidence in horse training. But I had all the confidence in the world of climbing on one and going where he wanted to go and see if I could find a way to talk him into going where we needed to go.
Yeah.
That was my philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you were so great at. You was very similar to like Ronnie. I mean, he was the same way.
For me, Ronnie's on his horse one day, that double R dock horse, the off rein meant more to that horse than any horse I'd ever ridden. When you hit that off rein, that means to get off of it. And
Yeah.
I'd never been around that sort of, like we said, a lot of different ways to call one broke.
Yeah.
I would back up though, like I got the opportunity to experience what Gary did on Shayla's horse in '83 or '2, whenever. I got that same experience in '74 as a young man because I got to ride a horse that Buster had trained. And
Done with Flying Freckles?
yes, but then that same year I got to show a more current horse that Buster had for Jay Agnew, Little Boy Ray. We were at Gardnerville, Nevada, and Buster, my horse had got sick at Reno the day before, and so he said, "Well, show Little Boy Ray." So I go up there and same thing. He elope around there on the wrong lead, and when you got a hold, nothing meant nothing, so same thing. I'm not. Last thing I'm gonna do is poke around on him or do much to go down there, but I mean, I know more start to them cattle, and this is like he's on eggshells. Like, where you want to go? As easy as you want to cut one,
Yeah.
and then that confused my ideology of what.
Tell him about Flying Freckles. Hey, that's the damnedest horse I ever
Oh,
seen.
mercy.
That horse could do more than anything I'd ever stepped on.
This horse, well, you couldn't lope him. He didn't have a lope. He didn't even have that gait. He had some crazy ass
Climbing.
climb and run. I don't know, but it was fast. But he'd go in that herd. They'd cut a cow at him. He'd run just as straight as across that pen. Stop. Grab his
Every
butt now.
trip.
Hard. And he wouldn't turn around without backing up a step.
Yeah.
But then he backed out, and then his head would come, and he would shoot through there like an arrow, doing the same thing the other way, and he'd do it all day long.
Yeah. And I was a young man. You go trying to work horses at home. I don't even know where you'd think about trying to.
Yeah,
What kind of prospect would do that?
Yeah.
Larry Reeder and I had a place leased together in Tulare that year, and he had cow bar. But we would discuss that out there in the arena every now and then when I'd work that horse, because I never worked him much. Hell, he was trained, and like, how did Bus get him to do that? And yet I can't turn him around until I get to the cattle.
Yeah.
I just need to point him to the cattle.
Yeah.
But he could channel a lot of energy in a horse's thought process.
Yeah, well, I made some dumb sons of bitches trying to make them like Flying Freckles, and they didn't come close.
Ruined a lot of horses.
Yeah.
He could move his front end.
I'd never seen a horse do like
Yeah.
he did.
Yeah.
And he did things like we see some pretty good manufactured stuff today, as we all know. I mean, we've changed the sport, but back in the day, this horse, when he'd get a cow, come through a cow and stopped in the trap there, this son buck could point one leg out there and lift one like a bird dog.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, back then, hell, I don't even know what I'm doing with my feet, to be
Yeah.
honest. I'm just going where this horse is trained to go. But trying to understand how a man can put that much intensity.
Yeah, and he might do that at the walk. Just
Yeah.
walk along there with the cow.
Yeah.
Pick a foot up.
The cow stop and he just squat and pick one leg up, wait,
Yeah.
kind of quiver.
Yeah.
And the cow's it's just a dumb cow.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
ain't doing nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. To this day, I don't know how you do that.
No.
Channeled it. Boy, he channeled it, every bit of it,
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Well, him and Shorty both, their horses were a lot more animated than the horses we see today.
The neatest thing, I wish I could remember the horse, but Buster had some colts with him out there at Arizona, one or two. His horse he was hauling, I forgot. And Shorty didn't feel very good that morning for some reason. And here, Bus, you work. They just kept bringing him his colts. Buster was having a blast. I mean, he could just, that bloodlines at that time where he was having to stay, and then he could do a little different with the Docalinas. It was some good watching. I don't remember the horses, but he had a blast that morning.
I bet, yeah.
They didn't raise those withers that much. They were just, but I'll never forget that. It was really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. I hung around because of Don. I hung around Matlock quite a bit. And the year Matlock and me and Don were all staying at that place, Connie Wills. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Out there on...
On 377 out here, yeah.
Yeah. And we always keep our horses out there. Well, Buster showed Miss Peppy also in the Super Stakes. And he marked a 2:21 the first round. He won the first round. And, well, we go back out there, and Matlock's out there. And he says, well, what'd you think of old Bussie's horse? Well, I knew better than to brag on it, because you know how he was. And I said, well, I thought it was all right, Matlock. He goes, all right. Well, you dumb bastard. He said, that's the best young horse I have ever seen.
Really?
I'm like, gosh dang it, I missed my shot.
Got set up, didn't you? Got set up.
He set that
That's
trap.
funny.
He knew how to do that. too.
All those old guys, they were competition to each other, but they all respected each other. No matter where you sat in the arena, the Will Rogers, where you were, where your crew was, everybody respected each other's talents.
Matlock, he was funny. I would go there, and every time I would go there, he'd have me work his 3-year-olds. And I was worked a couple, and the boy brings me this one. He said, let's not hop around a little bit. Well, I thought he meant you just hop up and down in front of a cow. No, that ain't what he meant. He would wear straight in the air and hop all the way across the arena and hang his feet over the fence. And
Hop a little bit.
yeah, he hopped a little bit. And well, I never did get him over it, but he hopped less violently after about an hour.
An hour. No egg timer on that one.
No.
Oh, heck.
And you know what he would do? I'd work them colts, and he'd put a Buster Welch, an original, like that and hanging there.
That you can't get no more.
Yeah, on every one of them. And he'd work whatever was going to a show, he used it. He wouldn't even put it in the damn trailer when we
Isn't
left.
that something?
He didn't want anybody to see him with that.
Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah, he would.
I was going to say, I've never seen a Buster in his hand. No.
Yeah, and he never took it to a show.
That's funny. I always wanted those guys, their programs are so opposite. I was always wanting to see a cut one day where you just entered, but you drew then what other horse you would show. Like you entered your horse, but and see those guys showing different training and stuff. I always wanted to see that. I don't think you better let that happen, but sure be some good.
I got to go to one of those.
Yeah, wasn't that out at King City?
It was at San Ardo at
San
West
Ardo.
Eads.
How did that go?
Well, it was different.
I bet.
And
What years are we talking
some
about?
of them folks are still alive, so I don't know if I want to finish this story. But it was funny.
What years are we talking about? We
It
did
was
this.
1973 because I was hauling old David Bingo.
Oh, who drew him?
And Wessie drew him and won the cutting because David thought something was fixing to happen. That's how smart he was. Because you couldn't beat this horse at the house. And I turned back for myself when I showed him. Now, I learned how to go around a cow and knew that we weren't in trouble. You could go around her the other way. That's how that horse worked. But I ride up there the second day to enter. And outside arena there at the feedlot, and Valerie May sitting there, she had Annie Glow. And as soon as I rode up, she said, Mike, we've been talking, we're gonna enter everybody's horse and draw out of the hat. And we had Son of Sugar there with Jimmy
Wow.
Bush and Starlight with Charlie Ward. She's about a 5-year-old. And
Wow.
West East had Quiao Dior. I don't remember what horse Leon had. But you saw a few chinks in the armor on some of them that been doing well.
Keeping that cleaned up pretty
I
good.
knew David Bingo. West East was a big man, and that horse was so smart. Jim Lee had trained him, and every time I cleared there, he'd done taken that first step to a cow, no matter. And he thought we were setting him up because when Wes cleared there, he couldn't poke him up. Whoa, no, this ain't right.
That's amazing how we don't see that anymore because no one shows horses as long as we did back then. But it's amazing.
Wasn't that David that had to load backwards in the trailer?
We did him some, yeah.
Yeah. He'd be the last horse in that old big trailer of Wayne Hodges.
But Gary, I think it would. Now I'm listening to all these stories. Everything Mike ever hauled ended up being trailer fighters. I think, like Missy Hankey, he always had mattresses around, and
That way.
I think there's a lot more story right there on his driving.
Yeah.
And what was going on up there behind the wheel a lot of times when you're traveling. There's got to be a tie in there somewhere.
You got. Gary needs to tell the time that Larry and I pulled him down the hill in that big rig of Wayne's. When we
Oh, shit. We go to a cut in Hartford, Arizona. It's in the mountains, and it's a Mormon church. And they've got all Santa Gertrudis cattle in this huge arena. It's like 200 by 600. And all the cattle they had, they just put in there. And these things were crazy. And Buster won with Sam Pepe. I don't know if even the rest of us even placed. But he went in there and he just stopped in front of the herd. Didn't go in. He just stopped and sat there. Directly his cow walks out. And he just whirls around and chases her up to the judge's stand. And then she comes to him and he just jumps backwards all the way back to the herd and he quits. Turns around again, waits and waits and waits. This same cow walks out there again and he did the same thing. He marked 75. Well, when I showed, I went in there and I cut a cow and I didn't lose it. And I thought, boy, this is pretty good. This cow ain't even trying to run over me. He was going fast. Well, when I quit it, I turned around, there is no cattle. They had run up both sides of the arena. And so she didn't want to come over me. She wanted to go with them, So, but anyway, on the way home, I'll run out of gas. So he's got Wayne Hodges' outfit, great big old long trailer. And we're up in the mountains. And we're going down the mountain where we live. Well, he gets a 6-foot lead rope, ties it to the end of his trailer and ties it to my truck. And I don't have nothing. I don't have power steering or brakes, you know. And away we go down the mountain. And I'm just like this the whole way, and I'm just right behind him. And I would see it would go around the corner. He's got his arm out the window, and he's talking, and we're going around curves, you know. I mean, I fought that thing. I had to rest. When I finally got to the bottom, when we got somewhere where I could get some gas, I had to rest for an hour before I could drive the rest of the way home. Golly, that was horrible.
I don't know if he'll remember this.
6-foot lead rope.
Yeah, 6-foot lead
He's
rope.
back here.
We're going to a steamboat, and I got a Volvo truck with Jake and all that stuff, you know. Well, anyway, we start down the last big hill, and you're in a raggedy-ass truck with a stock trailer,
Oh, yeah.
and the smoke's coming everywhere out of this truck, everywhere, and it's running off. And we finally get off the mountain before you turn in the steamboat. Well, it's kind of downhill, you know,
Yeah, that
going
last-
to the arena.
Yeah.
I'm behind him. I watched. I said, "Well, he knows it's here, ain't it? Don't he know it's here? Well, you couldn't get stopped. You remember you had to go through town and come back. I think you bought a new truck out there.
Yeah.
You couldn't get stopped, Mr. K.
And we went, hell, we just going through town. We slow then. He still couldn't get stopped.
I was afraid I was going to end up in Wyoming or somewhere.
He got out of that truck and he was just, I don't think he had no brake on nothing by the time we got to the
And,
fairground.
you know, they have them deep sand
Yeah.
Runaway truck ramp deal.
ramp deals. Man, I go by everyone. I think I should have turned there.
It'll make you think about it one more
Maybe
time.
I'll make the next one.
I was telling Tag about Steamboat. We get out there one year and the cattle are terrible. Usually they're pretty good out there, you know, they're terrible. Well, I had worked for this guy named Glenn Cantrell, and all the tags had his name in them and the brand. So I called him that night and I said, Glenn, what the hell's the deal with these cows out here? They're terrible. I ain't got no cows out here. And I said, bullshit. Brands all over them, tags in their ear. And he said, well, I got cattle turned out there, but they ain't at no cutting.
Wow.
And I said, well, yours are. He said, well, hell, Ronnie, that's the cattle we used as Derby.
No kidding.
So I didn't say nothing. Well, in the middle of the night, we ain't got no cows. He come and got them all. Next morning, there was not a cow there on the whole place. So the next day, they get the cows and we have the cutting. Well, the next day, we worked a bunch of cows that morning in the practice pen. Well, Guy Woods is first. So I don't know what's going on, but when they come in the arena, I knew something fishy going on here. So he gets Winston to settle them. He gets Winston Anson to settle them. Well, hell, it's the cattle we've been using all morning. So he's in there. Farron knows about it, and Paul knows about it. And I know that we used them, but I didn't know what the deal was. And Guy gets Winston to settle the cattle.
Yeah.
He's in there, and them some bitches are just tearing him up down there. You know, of course, every time we'd run him on back over, you know.
Yeah.
And this goes on for about 45 minutes, and Winston's saying, back up, back up. And so they find out, they figure, they finally told him, Paul finally told him, and they bring the fresh set in. And the guy said, well, shit, man, you ain't selling these, you were up the last set.
Oh, that was funny.
That was funny.
He fought those things. He tried so hard.
He was
And y'all just lined them up.
Finally, he just says, I can't do anything with these sons of bitches.
And y'all on top of them just bringing it
Oh,
back.
hell yeah. Yeah, they didn't need much encouragement. And then we go to Vegas, and a nice lady, running the practice pen. Her husband traded horses and trained. Bill something.
Bill Inc.
Bill, he traded quite a lot of horses.
Yeah. Colleen.
Colleen. But about 2 minutes into it, she'd go hollering your name. You got 2 minutes. You got a minute. Find you a spot. So I had never had that been done before. So this went on a couple of days, and sometimes it's hard to get a spot, you know, and especially when you're young. Well, anyway, I told Teresa, I said, go buy some flowers. So she didn't know what for, but she did. Her and Kim found some flowers, and next morning I get there to work. Well, I set the flowers up for that lady. I said, you're doing a hell of a job, you know. Well, I never got called out ever again. Them guys say, you son of a bitch, what you got on her?
Flowers. Wow, flowers.
You know, the first, I'll never forget, the very first practice pen we had was an old Barn 8. Before there was even a John Justin Arena. And that's where we learned you have to have women run the practice pen. That old boy that was running it, everybody get in line, and I don't know what the trouble was. I was 3 or 4 people behind Sam Wilson. Next thing I know, Sam has jerked that guy's clipboard away from him, and he's beating him over the head with it. I never did hear what the problem was. I know Sam was pissed now. He went to whacking him over the head with that clipboard. And we never had another man run the practice.
Just some tough women.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one other practice pen. Lisa Bankston was Lisa Brown then. She just started it. Started it. And Carolyn and them had been running it, and when Bill showed up and Terry showed up, by God, they worked. That's just the way it was, didn't it? Well, she starts it out, and this is her very first day. Well, Terry don't show up in his priority, and he comes there for the next bunch, you know. And he said, I need to work his horse. You know how he was. She said, well, sir, you've missed your turn. These boys here are going to be in front of you. And he didn't take that well. Well, anyway, she didn't let him work, though. So finally, that bunch of priorities worked, and then he worked. Well, she called his time, and he's in there, and he's in there, and he's in there. And she said, Mr. Rice? I said, yes. She said, would you watch this box? I said, sure. And she just walked out there in the arena, grabbed that bridle rein, and let him out. That's a true story.
No, kid.
Yeah, Lisa Bankston. So they're going to have a big meeting about cutting cost. And he's maybe the president at that time or something. And the practice pen come up. And he said, leave that woman alone, she's all right. Hell, he knew.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
He knew.
Yeah.
He said, you leave that woman alone, she's all right. And she run it for a long time, didn't she?
Oh, yeah.
I like the days before the public practice pens. Who do you know around here close that's got 4 or 5 cows or somewhere where, you know, some of the places we'd end up working our horses, that was a whole nother story. I mean, think some of the places, if you know an old boy that might know a guy that, you know, and some of the places we'd go, it's good stuff.
Yeah, and I remember you and him both working somebody's pasture out there at the Pacific Coast.
Wes Eads.
And y'all were talking about going back to nature. And
He really did.
And they showed in the finals, and I think I'm probably the only one they beat. And I thought, well, I don't know about this back to nature business.
But you know why we had to go back to nature? I was so proud of myself because I'd found all these fresh cows. You know, I wasn't from California. I found Wes Eads, you know. But I didn't realize he didn't have an arena, and his pastures were just rocks. And we get out there, and Mike's go, "Where's the pen? I've never been there." Boy, he freed his dog
that
swings
links
horse
study
well.
like that. Get a little bit of that club footing.
Yeah, you're right. We call it back to nature. Go back to nature. Yeah, the practice pens, man, you had to be inventive. You figure out somewhere to go work your horse. I mean, you had to. We'd drive stupid amount of miles to go work a horse. Think about some of the runs you made over the years to just go work a horse somewhere.
Yeah, several years.
I hadn't thought of this since this happened, but you had to be upset with me. For some reason, I'd go up towards north of Amarillo before the 5 and 6 year old, whatever it was in Amarillo back then. And we went to Allison, Texas. Monty Taylor and Andy Taylor, they had all these cows, kind of the same deal. But remember all them rocks in that arena? And it was pretty rough. It was just, I guess, just us up there.
Yeah.
And good cows, but boy, you had to be careful, you know. But that's just kind of way, I mean, that wasn't that long ago, but was there public practice pens then? No, wasn't there?
No.
If you went on into the cutting, wasn't there?
No.
No?
Well, the first practice pen, well, that the NCHA had was there at Barn 8, and that was 86.
That was the first one. I didn't remember
That
when
was
we
the
did
first
all that.
And that was, that year, I had this little son of a duck mare, and I worked her in the practice pen, and Kobe was in there. Well, he thought she was the greatest thing he'd ever seen. And he went around making all these bets that I'd win the first go-round. Well, it came my turn, and I rode that mare up next to the in judge's stand, and she turned her head completely upside down and just stayed like that. I don't know if she looked at them flags or what, but she went all the way to her like that, her head straight up and down. I get in there and I cut a cow, and she's prancing around, and put my hand down, and she spins away from it. Well, then the herd jumps. She spins away from it. So I'm just sitting there spinning round and round and round. And kind of finally get her pulled up, and I ride out. And
That was it?
and I looked up, and Alicia was on her, and she had a pair of spurs in her hand. I gave her to Alicia. She was carrying a pair of spurs. Yeah, I looked up, she's on this mare, and she's just whacking over her head with her spurs. Well, anyway, so Kobe, he didn't win much money.
No.
But that same year, Joe Blaylock had the little gray mare.
Yeah.
That silver pistol.
Yeah. He never bought a practice, but he worked every damn cow in there. Because
the
it
fence,
just had
didn't
those
he?
panels up.
Yeah.
And he just be
Forgot
on the
about
other
that.
side. He just worked from the other side.
Yeah.
Never paid for
I
work.
forgot. Out there at Tropicana, I watched that happen out there on that gravel outside the pen.
Yeah.
He got free works.
Yeah, that mare would get it.
Remember how far she'd work a cow 400 yards from
Oh,
her?
yeah.
That boy never, from the day he started that mare, worked flat. Day one. As a 2-year-old till
No
it's in.
no driving off. None of
Nothing, flat. We get to Kingsville to a pre-work. And the coming into that arena is slicker. I mean, it's that slick concrete. So they went and got some sand, but it had come out of the county fair where the hogs had been on. Can't get her in the arena. Cannot get her in the arena. We got to remove the sand and put fresh sand down.
Wow.
Couldn't get her in. Well, the other thing, got the white picket fence up. We're cutting them girts. They got a white picket fence up on that mare. Can't get her in the arena. We got to take the picket fence down to get her in there. And I'm thinking, well, what the hell are we doing with this sorry ass horse? And she went down there and held them cows like she was.
She was incredible.
12-year-old.
She was incredible.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But that mare was some kind of silly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think nobody but him could have got her trained. That man was a good horse trainer.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
No, he passed. No, but that and same guy owned. What was that horse's name that Bubba Wells had tagged? That was the Bronchi Bergan Breeze. He's full brother to the old horse that the guy that would strap himself in.
Ned Hunt's horse?
No, yeah, well, maybe, but no, it wasn't Ned
Ned
Hunt's.
Hunt's.
It was,
Did strap.
he's from up Butenmiller.
Ernie
Ernie
Buteman,
Buteman.
Dad, his
senior,
dad.
yeah. Kingstream.
Wilshire.
Kingstream.
Yeah, his full brother Kingstream. This was one juicy animal. And Pat called me and he said, you know where there's a good horse? And I said, yes, sir. I know where there's a really good horse. This began breeze, but he is bronchi. I'm not going to lie to you. He said, let's go look at him, let's go look at him. So I doubt if he'd ever had a spur on him, but Pat wasn't taking his rock runners off, And he works at White Burma Cattle, works him, and it's good. I mean, it's good. So he quits that first cow, and I guess he thought maybe he needed to go to the right a little bit.
Shocky.
And this horse bucked this man off in that arena. I mean, hard. And I'm thinking, well, I just lost my 10%. Pat couldn't load that son of a bitch up fast enough to get him home.
Really?
Yeah. And they win a lot of money on that horse. That man was a horse trainer, though. Different type horses.
Just different horses, different kind.
The young boys wouldn't even
Yeah.
put their saddle on him now because it took too much to get that done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's like that mare I made the final on the first time in '78. The futurity was it. I didn't ride with no spurs. Well, I saddled her in the morning and unsaddled her at night. I might work her 4 or 5 times. I couldn't get her hot. So if I got her hot, she was in the
Brain
air.
just roll over.
So I just worked it all day long and just give her a break in between them. Well, they wouldn't fit, no, those kind don't fit in the assembly line.
No.
No.
Can't do the same line on them.
No.
Some of the old Coliseum stories, the East versus West, like that whole.
It was just comical, and you could tell the people that did know, you're not supposed to go over there on that side and sit, and then
Yeah.
then you could see they'd figured it out in like a couple of days. Okay, but they really didn't know why. There's a lot of history and
You know what
heritage
Dick
to all of
said-
that.
You know what Dick said about that?
What?
Dick Gaines, he said, we got a lot more people over here on our side than they do over there, but they got Carol over there.
Oh, Dick Gaines.
That's going
But,
back.
but I mean, there was just a lot to that. Some guys would warm up over there, dry work on their side. At the last minute, they'd go to the other side and then go to the herd on that side. I've noticed that. The guys that hung it, they'll go that way. And it just,
I want to tell you a story he don't even know. I had this little old 3-year-old stud, and good horse, but he was plenty mouthy and rank. So every morning, this is way back there, and finally I asked, what the hell I'm going to do to this horse, They don't want to cut him. And it's a derby. So Sonny and Matlock said, I'll tell you what you do, you just go tie him up over there on the other side, leave him be.
on the other side.
Yeah, tie him up. Well, Greg and Gary whooped this horse for a week and a half every day. Spanked him for making him shutting up and kicking out and shit, Well, finally, one evening there, his cuttings were over quite a while. And I go back in there and I get this horse, and Greg's waiting on me. He said, what the hell's the deal? I said, well, I didn't want to whip him on our side over there, so I thought, let you guys do it. And it worked. It helped that horse. I think Matlock was the one that told me to do that, because that sounds pretty close.
I was trying to tell somebody the other day about, like talking about missing the cutting, you're set, now you can come in on the side, they changed it. But I was talking about, what year was that Greg, it was on San Pepe, he missed the gate, had to come in by the beer stand. And what would have been 71
Wayne Sisnick did that too.
or 2. There's been a few people, more than you'd think, that have had to do that.
Wayne, he wrapped his horse's feet up so he didn't slip.
No kidding. So I didn't know Wayne,
I
but
remember Wayne getting in. Greg was before I'd ever come back here.
yeah, Greg's deal, it was a big deal. Everybody was been out. You can imagine how, I felt sorry for Greg once he got in the arena. It wasn't good.
And
You know that-
and he invented a rule about the dogs. ended up not being an arena
Yeah.
at Crezo. You remember that? We're at Crezo Springs at the Masters, and he ain't having a great run. And that old big old fat lab of Crawford's was laying there, and it gets up, and he gets run over, and he said, "Hey, damn dog caused that." And so he got a rework and made the finals on that hole. Yeah. And Don from down there at Houston, Don.
New and Swander.
No, he's another one. Don, he had that sorrel stud he showed for them people there. We're at Vegas at the Tropicana, and it's not going too good for him. And the lights went out, and I'm talking dark, completely dark. I don't know if y'all remember that or not. Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
all you can hear is grunt in the dark, and he is thrashing this horse. I mean, it's dark. In about 20 minutes, everything got back right. They give him rework, of course. He wins the go-around. I mean, I don't know what all he did to that horse the other. What? Don Munn.
Don Munn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Don Munn, that horse was a freak too. That one horse could do some crazy stuff. Remember that?
Yeah.
I can't think of it anyway.
But he understood what dark meant when he got done there. And one time at Drummond's, Buster's showing, and it all relates back to Crawford. Buster's showing, we're in the outside pen, and it's not, I don't know which horse, but it's not great. It's not good. And he takes off in that plane and he buzzes this arena. Crawford does.
No
His pilot
kidding.
does. And cattle went ever to hell everywhere. And Buster just looks up like that, and everybody looked up, and he just jerks the shit out of this horse. I mean, jerks it. They give him a re-ride, and he wins the cut. And Gary's we're pre-working Stevensville, and my dad is alive, and he didn't go to many. He had Pepto and the roan horse before he got
Shorty.
sick. And both of them good horses.
Oh, man.
Good horses. And so my dad tells the story anyway. Gary asked him, what about that big roan horse? And my dad told him, he said, he's a good horse. He said, he'll never be what that other horse is, but he's a good horse. And that pissed Gary off for long. We talked about it out there when we judged that
Yeah.
cut in that time, you know. But they're both good horses.
Yeah.
Gary, did you ever have a bad day with Pepto? Or you ever think of any?
What? One day I worked him twice, but I didn't do what I was intended to do because he didn't mess up anymore.
But you just gave him another chance to screw it up, and he didn't. And
He didn't do it.
that's a good horse when that's your bad day.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
That's a dang good horse.
You know what? I remember coming down to DeLeon one time because I never saw Pepto at the pre. You know, we didn't go to the same pre-works.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I asked him, I had him show me his colt, his favorite colt or whatever, and it was Pepto. And we go to the stall. And the only thing he said is he could work every cow he cut, and I knew then he
Yeah.
was pretty complete.
Cover all the bases.
Yeah, you know, that's enough said. You know how that is. When you got one, you ain't afraid of what you cut.
That's right.
You got a pretty good idea you can advance.
Hell with them horses, you got to pick them cows.
Yeah.
You
The
know
guy
what I
don't
mean?
answer that question like that very often. What would you have said
Yeah.
either? I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
know, it sounds like bullshit, but I lost one cow on that horse, and that was in the finals at Augusta,
Yeah.
and that was it.
And that being said, Augusta was the easiest pen in the world to lose a cow on that ground and get a little loose, and there
Yeah.
was
You remember
no
how
spot
it used
for
to
recovery.
do that when you
Yeah.
walked to the herd?
Yeah.
Everything around you moved.
Yeah.
Right, we went down there one time, and Lloyd's fairly young then, and they was liking his stuff, which they should. He's unbelievable. But he's cutting about 6 seconds, tagging off 6 seconds. So he hits me up about something. He said, I'm going to all the finals, but he said, I really ain't winning. I said, well, Lloyd, if you see me in that box, you better cut more than 6 seconds. That shit ain't gonna work. I said, I think that's what's hurting you. So we get to Augusta. This was after the futurity. And you know how them was down there. I mean, they'd get on top of you.
Man.
He cuts this cow, and he don't even get his hand down. And this cow goes to bawling. And she just keeps bawling and bawling, and he just keeps working and working and working. Finally, he gets off and he looks out there at me and he said, how's that? And I said, not now, dumbass.
Wrong cow for that one.
Yeah, oh, God almighty. He's something else, ain't he? There's a guy, go back to the flag. He might not have cow on the place.
I know it.
If you get
How
through
those guys
that
do
first
that?
go around on him, if he gets through,
You know,
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I helped him the last couple months with that mare, with Nurse Ray. And when he showed up, hell, she was trained. I mean, this mare was as trained as you'd want one to be.
Was that her when I went up there that day? And you may be worker.
It could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been. I
First thing she
took
did-
him off of her because I couldn't slow him down enough then.
First thing she did was, I mean, it just starting to cut a cow, and she stuck her head right in the dirt. And I, and Lloyd is,
You did that though? You jerked her head back?
oh yeah, I didn't know that he was training her to do that. I thought she was just being rude. You know?
Now that's what we're looking for, Gary. That's what we're looking for now.
I didn't know that.
Well, he hadn't mastered that cutting with that loose rein and that hand down, and because I hold and herd for him that year, and the very first go, which that's as far as he went, he had all that slack, and when he comes by me, I trying to tell him, I said, we don't need to show him today, and he was whacking his nose when he missed that first cut.
Yeah,
But
lots of
boy,
slack though, Dad. I remember.
Yeah, but he did ever trained.
He's a fine feller. You know that boy.
Oh,
you
shit.
don't never hear
No.
nothing about nothing. He's a fine guy as a man ever want to be around.
I just don't see how those guys get what they're getting done with no more cows.
Well, I don't either.
It's very impressive. If
They
can
got
get it done.
more talent than I do, that's for damn sure.
Well, quality horses sure don't hurt. You know.
It don't, but
No.
but he wrote some pretty sorry
Oh yeah.
things too.
Yeah.
He knows what it is to make a living. We rode horses, and I think this group probably made the finals on more sorry ones than.
Well, that was kind of the game you had to play back then.
you
Everybody
had
didn't get
to.
issued out all good horses in your
Yeah.
barn. You had to train. You showed what you trained. No one was
If you-
shopping horses like they
If
do
you
now.
looked around, you wouldn't want to show the thumbuck you had to show.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, to be honest,
Yeah.
I mean, we were going to try to.
No.
I mean, I'll blow my horn one time. I went to the Pacific Coast Futurity in Santa Rosa, 1976. And Gary will get a laugh out of this. I got a little Palomino mare named
No.
White Boy's Girl.
Yeah.
She's just like this in front. She buy a stud named White Boy. Stands there in Marana, Arizona.
You trained her right up because he paid you by the month to do so.
No, I traded for this. I traded
Okay.
for half of this filly about June.
Half of
This
it.
boy had been riding her in the feedlot. I had a bay gelding. I'd give about $754. It wasn't making much, and an old saddle. So I traded that gelding and that old saddle for half that mare, and took her home. Went to work, and they had a little old deal in Southern California for 3 and 4-year-olds combined. That's when Joe Hine was still living over. So I go over there, and this mare knows nothing except a cow. I mean, you couldn't turn that sunbuck around in this room, and didn't back her up very fast. But when the cow stopped, she'd just stop and turn around. Stop and turn around. So I do good at this little deal. So I bite the bullet and tell my partner I'm going to enter in that big fraternity. And he pops off, and, oh, you're crazy for going out there. And he says, I'll tell you, he says, if you win that, he says, all I want's the saddle. So I get out there. Gary Kennel went with me. we stopped by Larry Reeder's. He was at Wayne Hodges there at Wasco at the time. Lions might have been there. You know, back then, they was all riding dock bars. I mean, that was...
Yeah, I mean, everybody. Yeah.
And they're laughing at me for having this little mare, and we get on up Santa Rosa. And at this time, I've got to know Gary a little bit through the year, and I have a lot of respect for his ability, which I feel like I see that maybe a lot of the cutting horse business don't recognize yet. But and he busted my bubble a little bit one day. I was sitting on this little mare, and I asked him what he thought, and he told me I needed to put a little more feel on her.
Gary.
Yeah. You know, and I got thinking about it there a minute, and at that time, I decided she had all the feel she could take, because I didn't know how you was going to quicken that left leg up to get past that right leg if you went to go fast. And she had her own little niche. I make the semis in the last hole, make the finals in the last hole. So Larry Reeder and I go out to Stan Fonson's.
I went with you.
But, right. And it's raining. And, you know, Stan's pin's, 60 foot wide, made raining just as hard as it can rain. And Larry tells me I need to tighten her up a little bit.
And she got real tight.
Yeah. So
Finally had to
it's my
get
turn.
off.
I go,
And lead her out.
and she just soles up. I mean, I take my foot out and roll it on her shoulder. She just stand there.
Going on track?
Won't on track. I got off and I said, Larry, that tight enough? Wasn't no sense.
Did you go with that?
I went with that.
And it won. And he
I
won.
had to buy myself into Calcutta because nobody else would bid. Hell, I win a horse trailer. I won you name it.
he
We had to
won
get a
horse
welder
shit.
to weld a hitch behind my stock trailer.
To get him back to Arizona.
2 horse subs.
And you know what he did? He worked one whole cow. He had him a Rolex watch with that band, the clasp deal that always comes undone.
I can't remember.
He worked one whole cow. He's just looking at his watch trying to fix it. Like that.
Wow.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Bet that was confusing to watch that happen.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if that watch fell down over them reins. I might get in a predicament. So I was trying to hold that watch band and not make that hand go anywhere.
I got you. What year was that we went there peddling them Navajo rugs and
That was
stuff?
the next
Next year? Okay. That's what we were
I
making.
wasn't mounted as good. That's when I had that free wheel.
Well, we
winch
freed you
stuff.
up before the finals. Mine wouldn't get out of a walk, and yours wouldn't get to anywhere near a trot. He was in a high low. Oh, that was fun.
But I did bring that little yellow mare back to Tucson and sold my half right back to him for a little profit because I didn't think there's any reason to try to show her again. And if I'd have been one of them other contestants, I wouldn't have professed to be there either. If that one. We was at my house working colts, 1980, because it was Poncho, colt my dad
Oh.
trained. I got this colt in February. Shit, could have showed him.
Oh, yeah.
Hell, Kelly seen him that fall when he was 2. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't lope that so much in a circle. And it wasn't safe to ride him outside the ring.
Gary, did you ever see that colt as a two-year-old?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Bill took him to the fraternity when he was 2.
Yeah.
And worked him. And everybody wanted to know when he drew. He said,
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll never forget that. I saw him. I pull up there and work my little mare. We're going to show ours in a week. And I'm like, boy, Bill's got his cooking pretty good. Now, it's a 2-year-old. But just let the hair out of me. That horse was phenomenal, I thought.
But
Oh,
he'd gotten out of the hospital. We were getting ready. We were going to work at my house, and then we were going to Amarillo, if I remember right,
Yeah.
for pre-work with Tom, Leon, and so we got the cows settled, and nobody. We wasn't driving no cows out. Remember that? He's sitting in the back of the pickup, and he'd already had his track bill, so he had that shit, and he didn't weigh 100 pounds. And we were working his colt directly. He says, "You boys ever put a son bitch on a cow and make him drive it?" He says, "How in the hell do they know which cow you're cutting?" I mean, he built into it.
Get back to some basics.
God, get in there and teach that somebody.
Well,
Yeah.
your dad, he changed my cutting completely. He told me, and I still live by it. He said, every horse you train, you spend some amount of time with the sorriest cattle you got, and go in there and picking one on that back fence and just go to working it up out of there. And it changed everything.
Everything.
Changed everything.
Yep.
That's the way Shorty worked 2-year-olds pretty much. Mm-hmm. Just put one on it and just let them just, it's so
They
fun
can take
working.
that cow,
That's where his deal was.
Yeah, like Bill said, it don't matter there's cattle there, just keep working that one.
Yeah. My dad, that ranch we was raised on, they had 20,000 mama cows. And we just throw them cows in the corner and cut the dries off or whatever he was going to ship. And they'd be 500-600 head in there, and he'd go in there and put his horse on the cow and never pick his hand up and bring that cow right on out of there. There's art to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because Mike and I were always bitching about these futurity horses. Well, are they going to take a cow when we put our hand down?
Yeah.
Because we could get them cut, and sometimes they didn't.
Right, absolutely.
And got to cutting like that, and I've never had to worry about that since.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And colts are funny. You never know that first time till you do drop your hand. You never know. Mm-hmm. Farron had that, probably the best horse 3-year-old ever took up her. And never had his tail down, ever. He goes in there and goes to cutting. First time that tail moved, there's somebody's never seen the cow again. He held it, but he never seen the cow again. He never had his tail down. He just always had it tied up.
Wow.
And that tail went to going across that horse. He
Didn't want none
didn't
of
even
it.
know he had a tail.
That Farron, he ain't changed a lick.
No,
Not a lick.
no,
Since he was 18 years
no.
old. He judged over there one day, and I didn't even know it, that he was judging. And I was sitting clear across the arena in the stands talking to somebody, and I hear somebody hollering my name, and I'm looking everywhere but the judge's stand, And finally I looked at the judge's stand, sure enough it's Farron. He's sticking his head out there, yay! He hasn't changed a lick.
Hang on there. It's bred in him.
You were talking about Greg showing sandpepper futurity. Yeah, Greg and that horse is the reason why we don't still have the aggregate. It used to be to make the finals, you added the first go-around, the second go-around, the semifinals, and the top 20, or however many it was. Actually, it was 15.
15 for a long time.
Yeah. And that's what made the final. And that's the way I think it ought to be today. Because you always, in the semifinals, you've got 6 horses out of the last bunch that ain't worth a shit that beat the marker 16 and a half and beat everybody with 16 that weren't anywhere near as good. But anyway, it used to be that way. Well, the reason it's not anymore is Greg did real good in the first round, and Sandpepe run smooth off with him in the second round. But there was only 70-some horses in it, in the whole fraternity. So Greg makes the semifinals. They take 45. So anyway, well then Greg wins the semifinals, but he don't make the finals. So that's why they changed that around. But I still think you get better horses if you still did that.
I've forgotten all about that like that.
Consistent, yeah.
Forgotten totally about that.
When
See,
you're
that's
on,
the way-
None of them will be an accident.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, that's the way the first BI did.
Yeah.
Yep.
They had 3 go-arounds and added all 3 scores.
Yep.
Then threw them out for the final.
Yep.
We're talking about Bill Freeman. I used to just enjoy watch people pull into their place and work their horses, and then they'd watch Bill work their horses, or work his horses, and then they'd want to work their horses again to try to,
Yeah.
do some of that.
Emulate,
And it was
yeah.
some of the funniest stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just consistent every night at Bill's. Somebody's going to try to imitate that once they'd watched him work a couple.
Yeah.
God, it was just comical. I don't
But
know.
there wasn't but one Bill Freeman.
Never. That
Wasn't
place,
but one.
that place could be noisy as hell, that arena, Will Rogers. And when he went to herds, you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
There wasn't all that hooping and hollering bullshit.
Right.
I mean, the whole world outside could be gone and no one knew it. That guy was,
The day Haynes Chatham, this is some pretty interesting history. The day Haynes Chatham took B.F. Phillips to Bill's place there in Wichita Falls to watch Little Lena, they couldn't find Bill around there. Karen said, I don't know, they couldn't find him. About 2 hours later, they found him at the truck stop on a pinball machine. And B.F. Phillips had to sit there and watch him play this damn pinball machine for about an hour before he finally left the truck stop, go work this horse they want to watch. I had come through there as that was going on, pick up Ruber up, and I went to my mother and Shorty's, ate supper with them. During supper, phone call Shorty gets, and it was B.F. Phillips. He said, I think that's a good horse, but your son will drive me insane, or something to that effect. Why? What was going on? And I knew what he was about to tell Shorty. There was a dead cow that'd been in that arena for days. Right where do you want to work your horse? Well, he had just changed his angle. Who's Reuben Pringle? Maybe somebody witnessed this. I'd already left. So he just changed his angles around this dead cow, and like it was no big deal. Shorty said, BF said, Billy Boy might drive him nuts. He can't handle that. Probably a dang good horse, but Bill didn't fight the small stuff.
No.
at Augusta one year, it was so cold. I mean, it was vicious. And the building was hot. They drove a set of cattle in and they settled them, and I'm like the second horse, and this horse ain't too smart anyway. And this is the semifinals. And pretty soon I come across the middle of the pen. I do this, and I go on over and stop her, and I come back and I do this again. Quit, dead cow in here. We lost 5 or 6 cows that night from the heat after coming out.
The change of the
In that
temperature.
arena.
Wow.
That
Now,
deal
one of the
there-
semis jumping
Yeah.
over that dead cow.
Well, I remember one time, and Billy Morris was always bragging about, we've had every one of these cattle in our care for the last 6 months, and there's no way to do any better. Well, Larry Reeder and I are sitting there looking at one in the herd, a limousine heifer that had been shown just last week. She's all groomed up, and
Shown?
her tail's all fixed up. And I said, y'all have had this one 6 months. Oh, yeah. I said, well, when did you clip it and do all the... Oh, it has, no. Bullshit.
When did you clip her?
When we first started going down there, they would process them cattle the day before they brought them to us. Wean them off the cow and process them, and then bring them in there. And you damn near need the club to settle them, because they'd want to nurse your horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that one year, they decided to set them tents up,
Yeah, when it just got flooded.
and the ice got in there. We had ice in the stalls.
That's the coldest
Oh, my Lord.
place I have ever been.
Yeah.
And I've been in Montana when it was 16 below, and I wasn't as cold as I've been
Gets
in
in your
Augusta.
bones right there for some reason.
One time
Oh, hippodrome.
it's raining like hell, and you had to work early. If you were on the settling list, started at 3 o'clock, you got an hour, and the next group got an hour. So Cinch is wanting to. He's not on the settling list, but he's wanting to work early. So I said, okay, come on. So it's raining. Well, you got to ride from the barn over to the arena, or however you got to get there. Well, he gets one of these big plastic bags, and he puts it over him because he ain't got no raincoat, and he cuts him 2 little eye holes. He's trotting across there, and they got iron bar going across there about head high on a horse. And there's two old gals there. Somebody's working their horses. Well, he hits this, knocks his head off. I mean, and he stops his horse. When he does, his horse runs backwards and it hits the back of his head.
Yeah, and then he got it all fouled up where his eye holes in back. He didn't know where the hell he was.
Oh, God Almighty, that was funny. Oh, that's funny. Another one on him is about he bought that truck off Kenny Patterson, one of them bigger trucks, and we're going to Abilene, and he's running about 40 miles an hour in this truck. And I go on past him and get out there, and I got my horses split up, and he shows up. He said, "Me truck don't run too good." I said, "Well, what's the matter with it?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "It just won't run." Well, it had a splitter on it. And he don't know it. He's in fourth gear on the low side, and he's just giving her hell. And then he goes to California, figures out how to run. He goes to California, and they pull him over at Escape. And
Is that when he know Holly logs?
They said, "You need to bring your logbooks in here." Well, he didn't know what the hell a logbook was, So he goes, gets the chatter and the quarter horse news and I don't know what all, and he floats it down there. And they look at it. They say, "What the hell is this?" He said, "It's my books." They said the trucks was lined up. I said, "You go sit down over there," And so they get him back up there. "We need your logbook." He said, "Man, I know Holly logs. I Holly horses." So they said, "You set your ass down." So he's in there 30 minutes and he's real busy. And he said, "There's a bathroom." He said, "I see the bathroom." I go to the bathroom, and he said, "They got outside door too." He said, "I just go on outside, get my truck, I'll go on."
He didn't have a license or nothing anyway, did he? Nothing. He didn't have
He
nothing.
didn't have a CDL.
Yeah, I mean, I
And
wouldn't
they
have a
tell this
license.
other one about Brady, him, and Waddy Hill.
Well, that's three. That's a
Golly.
pair or
And
three.
they go somewhere in Arizona. They're going to California, but they're stopped in Arizona at a park, one of them side parks. And whoever's taking care of it, maybe he's not quite mentally, he's mentally challenged. Well, you can't unload your horses at all there. Well, they get them out. They're leading them around, and that old boy told them, they said, no more. Well, they're not. Brady, of course, he's asleep in the car. And so the cop shows up, and he's one hostile, mad. He knows this kid working in there ain't quite right, He's hostile, and he's mad. Well, they don't understand English, Waddy Hill and Finch. He said, "That guy in there understand English?" Brady's all, They said, "Yeah." He just takes his pistol out, taps it on the window.
And he's asleep.
And Brady don't know nothing's going on. He don't have a clue. And he said, "You understand English?" "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "Well, get your ass out of there." And he pretty much sticks the pistol in his nose. Before they get done, they got to clean it up where the shavings and stuff are. Well, they're looking for a fork. And that cop said, "No, you don't need no fork." He said, "Get your goddamn hands and throw it in there." And Brady said, "I'm throwing it in there fast." And he ain't got a clue this is happening. Well, they get in the vehicle, and it's Cinch and Waddy's just killing herself laughing at poor old Brady.
Gary, did you ever have your judge's card? Did you ever? You did?
Yeah, he used to judge a lot.
You did?
Yeah. Me and him quit at the same time. In fact, we got hired to judge the age event at Reno because we didn't have judges' cards.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, and they purposely didn't get it approved so that me and him could judge. And Lindy and Kathy Cook were, that was their idea. And, but they had to have one judge because they had 2 days of open cuttings. Well, I promise you, Me and him were never more than a point apart, and we never had him. Once I think we had like a third and a fourth switched, the other way. The rest of the time was all the same. I mean, it was crazy, wasn't it?
Well, have you ever been on the other side of it? Have you ever been on the other side of it? Have you ever raised any cane about the judging, like in the arena as a contestant?
Oh, shut up. Well, that year that I had the big brownout at Memphis, and I had to pay $1,000 per judge, but it was only $4,000 because Randy refused to press charges. Randy Chartier. Yeah. But it turns out because I had a horse he wanted to buy.
No, I don't think so.
And so get to, and one of the judges was Johnny Wisniewski. And we get to the Super Stakes, and Randy and Johnny Wisniewski are two of the judges. Well, Randy, he said later that Johnny kept talking about that deal. And so Randy wrote a note, said, and signed my name to it, and put it in Johnny's chair in his judge's box. He said, meet me under the judge's stand tomorrow at 7:30.
Holy crap.
And we'll have this out, and he signed my name to it. Well, he told Brantley. Brantley knew better. And so he comes out of there, they go in it, he comes out of there with that note, and he showed it to Brantley, and he said, he can't do this. Brantley said, it's all right. He said, I'll be here, I'll make sure nobody else gets involved, and y'all can just, he goes, no, he can't do that. Yeah, Brantley wouldn't let anybody else get involved.
John had a way of getting out of pocket when he wanted to.
Yeah.
Tell one story on him. We was at the Tropicana one year, and I had a big last day. Had them Docalina mares, and everybody was leaving there and going to Augusta, but we were not going. We were going to come home. Well, we was out celebrating. We was at the casino there at night, and they had got these little lounges where some music, a piano player or something, a little big dance floor. And, it's 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and John and Bertie's dancing. And there's a big old boy shows up, big fella, wolf sweater, and he's got him a gal, and they look Vegas, And just as the music stops from that song, John and Bertie start these 3 little steps with little rails.
I can see it.
And they run into each other right there at the top of them steps, this big old boy and Talbert. And this old boy says, where's the baddest cowboy in there? And John, he says, partner, you don't need to look no further. And then so the conversation started. Apparently John talked him out of it because directly this old boy just wanted a picture with him.
Yeah. I was in
Got
there.
his girlfriend in on the picture too, but it didn't start that way.
I was in there one night, and Alan Keller was living there at Vegas. And Alan was at the bar, and I was walking by. I was just going to the room. And Alan said, Gary. And I go there. He buys me a drink. So I'm standing there leaning on the bar next to Alan. Well, Glenn Poole.
God, you were in the middle of all of that? You were right there when all of that happened?
I was right in the middle.
Wow.
Glenn Poole walks up on this side, and he orders a drink. And then directly, I hear all this growling, and Alan's leaning over looking that way, and Glenn's looking that way. And the only other noise was the ice in my glass going. I backed up out of there, and partner, now they went at it. No words exchanged whatsoever.
Wow.
Went out the year I worked for Shorty and Tommy Mint and I took one little road trip that summer, and we went over to Wasco and cut, and we went up to Tulare for cutting. And of course, Greg Ward showed up, and Dick Winger was judging. Used to own Flying Freckles, you know. Anyway, we get ready to start the Open. Alan was with Greg. You know, Alan was thick with Greg.
Oh, he loved Greg Ward.
Directly, Alan walks right over there to the pickup, leans right on the bed, and tells Dick Winger he's pretty sure Greg needs to win the cutting today. Boy, I mean, you know, Dick,
Wow.
he didn't know what to do. I mean, it hit him hard. Of course, Greg won the cutting, but
I judged the snaffle bit futurity that year. Greg died right after it, and he won. Well, when I first saw him, he came up, said hi, and shook hands. Greg weighed 120 pounds. I mean, he's teeny tiny. And I remember thinking, well, how does he get on his horse? Because he never had a horse. You had every horse of his. You had to
Catch
get
a
on
Pony
at
Express.
at the trot.
Yeah, like a Pony
In a
Express.
circle.
Yeah.
You had to jump up there. Every horse you ever had. And I thought, well, how does this work? Well, Alan was with him. And his boy would hold the horse while he's trotting around the circle. Alan would pick Greg up, and he'd run around and set him on there.
Wow.
And Greg won that thing as far as you could throw a rock, you know. He had the only cow horse there. He couldn't mark more than a 16 in the rein work, but he didn't have to, because he'd mark 25 in the herd and a 25 down the fence, you know. And, I mean, he beat him bad. And when he won, they let us walk out there and watch him give him his awards. And Alan was standing there and just huge tears coming down his cheeks. He loved that Greg.
Yes, he did.
And that's the only reason he liked me, because I met him through Greg.
right,
You know.
right.
Greg Welch and I were sitting in a rental-car one day at Greg Ward's. You know, put those cuttings on there. They were a lot of fun. Everybody doing different stuff. And Greg goes, look off over here to the right. And they were bringing Greg Ward horses. And I never seen anything like that. Like, they would just be rounding him like, I mean, he just had to take a chance and catch a left stirrup and swing up and wouldn't even check them up and just go right to a cow.
Yeah.
And then, boy, when they got, that was crazy. He worked 10 horses in felt like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen anything quite like that, getting on a horse like that. What happened to the standing still deal? He didn't.
Yeah, he
do that.
never. I knew him all my life. And
He never had. It was always like that.
Yeah.
Huh? Wow.
John told me a story. Greg had broke his leg, and he had to show it to futurity, one of the futurities there. And I had some kid help him. Anyway, somehow this horse did something to this kid's pinky, and it broke his pinky. And it's a major ordeal, this pinky. Mm-hmm. And so he said he listened to it for a couple of days, and there his dad is showing all them horses with a broke leg, you know, damn sure broke. And he said, finally, I had enough. He said, my dad's out here showing these horses with a broke leg. He said, if you bring that pinky up one more time, I'm going to cut the son of a bitch off. And John ain't no little bitty kid himself, you know.
I tell you, Greg Ward, he went 9-0, didn't he? I mean, he worked, he had party.
And the hotter it was, the better he liked it. He worked that much harder. Be 110, you know where it was up there in that valley. Oh, he loved it.
That place at Greg's, I remember Greg Welch, I was sitting in judges' stands, and we hear a 40-car wreck, a pileup out there. Was that 99? In that fog?
99.
You can't imagine what that sounds like. It just kept happening. I'm like, what? And I was trying to judge the cutting. It was incredible. I mean, this kept happening.
That happens a lot.
All the time.
I'd never experienced anything like that.
There's been 150 car pileups on that road.
When that stint that, well, I was in Wasco for a while, and then Tulare. Larry and I were in Tulare. And I had an apartment right off the interstate. Of course, I heard them pileups all the time.
That's crazy.
But could not see my damn entrance to that complex to turn off the road. I mean, that get out to the barn. You can climb up on the barn and see for miles. And we couldn't see each other in the
Yeah.
same arena.
Just
And
get above that.
It'll lift about 10 o'clock, and then it's back about 2:30 or 3.
One time I was going from Oakdale to Santa Rosa. I had to drive with my door open so I could see the line.
Damn.
There wasn't no point in looking out there. You could not see nothing. I mean, nothing.
Don't look forward, look down.
Oh, it's horrible.
That is horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I told this story last time or not, but it's on Jim Daniels. Y'all remember him?
Oh, yeah.
So he's standing gay bar king. Breed any mare living. Yeah, I mean, most of them didn't have a halter, never been haltered. Well, this old stud, he got real picky about what mare he's going to collect him on. You know, you might have to leave 5, 6 mares up there before he do his job. And then he got picky about where he did it at. And Jim's place was behind the bowling alley at 290. So pretty soon it got to where you had to take him out there on the highway to get him collected. So one day he's collecting him out there, and he's an old German tough. He's collecting him, and 2 women drive by. So they go to the police station, sheriff's office, and they complain. And they send a young sheriff, deputy out there. And hell, he'd been collecting this horse, and hot. And the sheriff said, that kid said, Mr. Daniels said, you ain't gonna be able to collect this horse up there on the highway no more. And I had a buddy that worked for him named Gary Shannon. He's there with him, and he just immediately just goes to thumping this deputy in the chest. He said, let me tell you something. If he wants to breed this mare at the courthouse, we're going to be at the goddamn courthouse. And they never come back out there again. You remember him? Jim Daniels, y'all remember him?
Oh,
he's
shoot,
tough
yeah.
old German.
Yeah, my dad.
Yeah,
got
your
hooked
dad
up
and
with
Jim was Mary
your
and
dad
Fox
was?
and that bunch.
He,
Holy moly.
superstitious, something terrible. I mean, well, if a black cat had crossed in front of him, he going to cut and he going home. He ain't going to do it. So me and this boy, we get drunk one night, and we're just kids. Before we went to the army, and we catch one. Well, Jim's schedule was you get up in the morning, feed your horses, go to the restaurant, eat, come back, check the mailbox. Well, we put the cat in the mailbox. And Gary's in there with him, of course. And he said, as soon as he opens that lid on that mailbox, this somebody jumps in that truck. He said, Ronnie, if he'd have known who it was, we'd both be dead. No doubt.
Probably true right there. That's probably true.
Oh, I scared that guy too. You know, he get mad.
Yeah, you were talking about Poncho a while ago, us going to Amarillo. Well, you remember, you came with me. We got the flag, and the snow this deep. And the snow that deep all the way to Amarillo. And we got no headlights. But it was okay, because there was only these 2 ruts
Stay in the
you could
ruts,
drive in.
yeah.
And we drove all the way
the way.
from Flagstaff to Amarillo with not one light. All night we drove.
That fog's what scares me traveling. I can handle what that fog is. Just I can't.
I tell you, when I left there, I swore I'd never drive in it again. I get some stupid stuff in it. Rita and I come across there from 5 to 99. You know, all that Kern County farmland. Me running one just as fast as it would run, and you couldn't see the damn dash. Reader's having him a fit over it, and I said, Larry, there ain't nobody out this time of night. But as I got, the last time I come through there, I had to get off. I got off at a truck stop in Bakersfield, or at an exit, and it took me a long time to find my way from the truck to that damn restaurant. And I sit in there and I thought, I'm never coming back. When this fucking fog rises, I'm gone.
I tell you, stuff
You
scares me.
remember Richard Anderson?
Well,
Well, when we was living on that ranch in Salinas, or in the foothills just outside of Salinas, you know, in the summertime, that fog would come in that night. Well, one night we take the Jeep out, we're going to shoot some hogs. This ranch it's only 3,500 acres. And we knew every inch of it because we rode all over it every day. Well, we're going to go check this water hole, see if there's any hogs there. Sure enough, there's 40 of them in there. And we jump out and go to shooting, and we've wounded some, and we're trying to catch them in. And before we get done, that fog rolls in. We could not find the Jeep. Richard and I ended up sleeping back to back on the side of a hill with our feet on a tree. And the next morning, and just in our shirt sleeves, it was cold. I mean, because we walked and walked and walked. We never found that Jeep. Next morning, the sun comes up. Hell, we ain't 40 yards from the Jeep, you know. And we go back to the barn. Jan, his wife's there. Well, she don't believe one word of that.
Well,
not one word.
That'd be a hard one to believe, really.
She just knew we went the back way and went to the bar all night. I mean, that may have happened once, I don't know. But not that night.
Not then.
I'll tell one on Greg and Mr. Pat. Well, I got several on Greg and Mr. Pat, but I'll go with the first one. I'd taken Handlebar there mid-year and got in that race, and they were the two leading contenders to be world champion. Well, I'd taken this judging job up there in Montana, right in the middle of that Montana summer circuit. So we've gone up there, and like I said, Mr. Pat's on one side of the arena and Greg's on the other side, and I'm helping both of them, but they don't help each other. You know, we've got this friction going. So I have to judge this cutting at Matt Crawford's. I'm hauling with Greg, and at that time, Greg was still drinking. And so that day, I let Pat win the cutting, of course. And Greg second. So that night we was having us a toddy or two, and Greg's like, God, I can't believe you did that. And I said, Greg, I'm pretty sure you'll get over it. But I says, you know Pat won't. And I said, that's probably only $150
But probably everybody here knows it, but I bet you don't. Pat kept, and I know because I've seen it with my own eyes, 2 complete sets of books.
Yep.
This one had the cutting, where it was at, how many was in it, who the judge was, and where he placed, and how much money he made. And this one, it had the cutting.
And what he should have won.
What he should have won. I swear to God, I saw them both. He showed them to me. And he said, look here. He said, the way I got to figure Matlock and Buster both, between the two of them, they owe me $289,000 some odd cents. He had it all figured out.
Dead serious about it too, buddy.
And that's exactly why he won the cutting that day.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
I got to see that, Gary, that deal in his house one day, that book you're talking about. And he was in the house asleep. This was Debbie and Donna and I had come in there one night. I said, I got to see that. And he gets up a lot at night, and I'm like, I better put this up. I don't want to be involved in this. But I'd realized something. He had won second behind the Freeman family every time he won second at the fraternity. You know, he won second behind Shorty. He won second behind Bill. And the stuff he had written on that, it was pretty entertaining. You know, I always had a lot of respect for him.
Remember down there at Del Rio, we had the turnback horse race?
I told him that.
Pat went and got his gun. He was going to kill Greg because, like Greg's able to control Silver.
Yeah, he just got in front of that Missy girl. Is that the Missy girl you're talking about?
That's when we had the horse race.
Yeah.
I guess I was telling them, Pat never talked to me the same after that because I was guilty associated with Greg, you know. And,
well, I was too. But he didn't realize I was in on the race because I was on a little junior, that little horse of Buster's. Well, when that dirt started hitting him in the face, I'm Directly, I'm just loping along. I come in, I missed all of that, 'cause I come in about 30 minutes later, you know.
Well, I'd.
Yeah, he wasn't going to keep Silver real straight, I wouldn't think anyway. I would think
No,
Greg could
they-
keep Silver real.
What was that horse he had? He turned back on and terrible broke, and David Holford fell off of him and helping Mary Brown.
Oh, yeah, that kind of a paint,
Yeah.
red and white paint.
And they
yeah,
had that. we
David
just
fell
had
off
that,
of him, holding
and
her
walked out the
for Mary Bradford.
side gate. Remember?
Yeah.
He didn't even come back. He
Yeah.
just went out the side gate.
Yeah.
I don't know. He went to rein him or something, and he was a little hard. I think panicked there a little bit.
Well, I tell you another story about that horse. I'm showing it. We're showing at Amarillo, and my horse, turnback horse, got sick, and I took him to the vet, and he died. The vet. So the next day is the Open, and Greg's helping everybody, helped me on that horse. Well, it was Greg's turn. Well, I just went and got on him, and Greg's getting ready to go down there, and he goes, "Oh, I don't think I'd ride him."
My money on the line right now.
Yeah.
I'll throw one thing in, just being in the middle of the road here. You know, we've brought up the little east side of the Coliseum and the west side of the Coliseum, and I'd just like to everyone to be, these two men right here, they've carried that to me. Gary brought Buster's ideology to the forefront, in my opinion, in my eyes, and I think Ronnie brought Matlock's from that other, and neither one of them being very vocal, have let their 40-something years that I've known them do the talking for them right up there at Will Rogers.
Well, and we like each other.
Yeah.
We like each other.
Yeah, that's not very
And
common.
that's rare.
That's rare.
But my gosh, you can't say, I don't think you can say enough about what these two men have done for the industry.
Well, I think I could speak for Ronnie too. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But neither one of us give a shit about any of that.
No.
This group, that faction, I never have, and he never has, as far as I know.
No. No. In fact, I feel left out some at that time for not being able to take some lessons from Buster or Shorty.
I can see that. I've never really thought about that, but
I feel like
you
I
would
was
have
cheated.
Yeah, and you would have enjoyed every bit of it.
I watched.
Yeah, you would have.
You would have enjoyed it.
I know, but I mean, I watched religiously them guys.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like I was allowed to
Yeah.
to go.
So
work
you
into-
never got to work horses, Buster or Shorty, you
No.
know?
Not one time. But every time they went to herd, I was right there.
Yeah.
I was right there. Or in practice pen, I was right there.
Did you help each other?
No. No. No.
Yeah,
We've helped each other at the, we have, you know, but that deal there, no. It was to me, it was terrible. If I wanted to talk to Greg back in the day, which I enjoyed it when he wasn't drinking. We'd meet at the concession stand or something like that.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I bet
shit.
people
Yeah.
think we're lying about this, but it was
It
strange.
was no good.
Yeah.
You know,
We had
it
a
really wasn't
generation
no good.
before us that were pretty hardcore old men.
Oh boy.
I mean, they had different ideology in how we socialized.
Like politics today?
Yeah.
It's like I sat down and talked to Sonny a couple of years ago over there, and it was like, people, what are you doing sitting there that long or something? It's the first time I kind of felt it, being over there on that side, and it just was weird.
Yeah, yeah. It just it drives me crazy because I really one guy I wanted to work with and never got the opportunity was Larry.
Yeah.
I'd visit with him because sometimes we'd be on he'd come to Cal committee or something. You know, I'd get to know a little bit.
The cattle committees and all the things you guys are involved in, and I know all the work Terry Riddle used to put in that through the years and what have you. Are we even doing any of that anymore?
No.
I mean, there's no control.
I don't think so.
Right now, he just calls them up and said, I need this many.
You just order them like a trainer orders a potload of cattle.
Yes, sir.
No history on the
Right.
cattle.
You know,
Me and
that,
him, they still tell him how many miles we went with Bob Joy. All these ranches out here looking at all these damn cattle.
And that was double time when you rode with him.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't take your eye off the road because he was
No.
never looking.
Right.
I told him I was going to have to quit. Either that or get me a football helmet to wear in the truck with it. In that time, when it first started, the speed limit was 55. Well, and he'd gotten so many tickets, he'd drive 55. As soon as you get on one of them county roads, partner, you're going 90 miles an hour. Now, I would scare you to death.
It got to where at the end, I just take my truck, follow.
Wow.
I mean, that's how. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
saying- but when they fired Bob, I quit. Because it was all
Yeah.
political bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't care if you put that on there or not. It was all political for him to get off there because they had another man,
Yep.
ex-president, wanting the job. And it just burnt me up. How is he, by the way?
He's okay. He never leaves the house.
I see.
And he might not hear from him, or you might call him, and he has trouble remembering who you are.
Yeah.
But then in 2 years, he might call the day before Christmas, say, come on over for Christmas dinner with us.
Yeah.
You know, he's
Yeah.
we've had it back and
But
forth.
I always heard that story, cow committee getting a cut.
Oh, yeah.
I never got my damn check. I can tell you that.
I didn't
15 years on there, and he had to, like now, you see them trucks come to Fort Worth, they'll just be lined up on the highway. Bob running that,
Yeah.
hour and a half, hour and a half,
Yeah.
hour and a half. They wasn't sitting out there on that asphalt for no 3 hours unloading. And so many of these cattle now that we're getting, you never would have been in that pen.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
You 750-pound cow, never.
Something they don't do now that we did back, we might have, like for a go-round, several different sources, and we mixed, okay, there's 40 of this guy's, 10 of this guy's, 3 of that guy's, and 2 of that guy's. And you had to do every single one. Every bunch had to be the same. Well, they don't do any of that now. No.
Tell you what, it's sure hard on them babies down there. That futurity, mercy. Pretty rough.
Can I tell one story about your dad?
Sure. He can always edit it.
This is the funniest thing I have ever seen in my life. You knew Bill.
Yes.
He'd say anything. One time at the futurity, Alicia and I were at a box. I don't know whose box it was. It wasn't ours. But it was right next to the King Ranch box. And all the King Ranch ladies in their mink stoles and fur coats and everything are sitting there and jewelry all over. Well, your dad and Jennifer Sessions walk up and sit right behind me and Alicia. And they're talking, and I could tell he'd been drinking a little. He would once in a while. And pretty soon, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm watching the cut, and Jennifer taps me on the shoulder. Said, "Gary, do you just think of me as just like one of the guys?" And before I could answer, Bill says, "Well, goddamn, you fart just as loud as I do." And all those ladies turned and looked, and he looked at her and goes, "Well, she does." I like to die now.
That's fair enough.
He would drive down the road with his trailer, and somebody cut him off. Oh, look at there, there's a scorpion.
Yep.
Get him, Mark.
Got it.
If somebody cut him off, he'd just pass him. He'd just get the truck by and go, "Here, have a little trailer." He'd run them off the damn road.
Yes, he would.
It's like when you lost your hat.
Oh, shut up.
Well, enough.
Have we talked about that any, Mark, at all, or are we going to leave that alone?
Everybody,
Whatever Gary wants to do. Hey, whatever.
But,
No, we don't want to talk about it.
but everybody knew, and it's like when Curly lost his, there wasn't nothing said.
Mr. Mike, you lost yours the other day.
Boy, I tell you, I've lost mine twice now in the last year. I've
Got him doing too much? Or?
You know,
kept
one
right.
time we were at Del Rio, he kept losing his hat. So we went and bought him one of them little red kind of cardboard hats, you know, that little kids wear with the stampede string and the binding around the edge of it, you know. He showed in it.
And the only reason I showed it is because I was a lot like Mr. Pat and some of these guys. I'd watched the judge, and I was pretty sure I wasn't going to win anything. And God dang if I don't win the cut.
Yeah.
Wearing that little red hat.
You all remember when Dave lost his dirt? He loses his hat, and I swear to God, you cannot see it. This cow stomps it so far in the ground, you can't see it. God. And then Boyd, he gets the hat, and he takes it home. Well, Amarillo's coming pretty quick. I don't know if it's right after the Derby, and Dave's coming. Well, they got a little pre-work, and Boyd keeps calling him about every 20 minutes. He said, hey, Dave, where you at? I want you to see this horse. Dave said he'd tell him another 20 minutes. Finally, Dave said, I'm in the parking lot. Well, Boyd puts his hat on, and this son of a bitch is bent. Dave walks in there, and he, shit.
Felt that?
No, it's straw hat, yeah. Oh, hell.
Old Dodger, remember that time he had that little coyote stud, he was at the Sunford, and he had a turnback horse, and he had the turnback horse's bridle on the saddle horn of the turnback horse. Or no, it's the other way around. The stud was over there. He had his bridle hung up there. And he's riding his turnback horse. He got a halter on the stud going back to the trailer. And the stud kind of bowed up something. Anyway, they went like this. When it went apart, Don's right leg was hung up in the bridle reins. And when his big old leg went out there, that stud left there and it jerked him off of there. Yeah. This foot hung up to the turnback horse on that off stirrup when he'd come off. Damn. And he ended up, and I mean, it drug him, both of them drug him ways into, both boots come off. And it slung him up under a truck. We got under there and drug him out of there. And Alicia went around and got his boots. And it tore his ear half off, and Rich Hancock sewed it on that night. The vet there.
I hadn't heard that name in a long time.
And the next morning at 4 o'clock, I was leaving to go down to the cutting. I thought, well, I better go check on him. And I knocked on the door. Well, he comes to the door, he's stark-ass naked, you know. And I said, oh, well, you all right, Don? Oh, yeah, but look here. So he's showing me all those little owies all over. He said, and Rich had to sew my ear on. And I said, well, you're not going to the cutting today, are you? No, he said, I'll stay home today. But, you know, you talk about horses and trailers. We had a horse there at Don's that Shorty ended up with that was out of, I think it was out of that old India Ruby, that mare up in Canada, by Doc Holliday. He was 3, and Don come down here for some reason, and I was riding that horse one day, and he was so lazy, and but he was a gelding, but I think he was a Crypt Orchid. I come back, remember Stanley Johnson?
Yeah, yeah.
I come by that row of pins that Stanley had those mares. And this son of a bitch bowed up with me. And I spurred him, and he started hopping along, and I thought, and I spurred a little more, directly this son of a bitch bucked me off so high. And when I came back, he went back to the ground, and I'm still going up, and we meet like this, and that saddle horn hit me right there. And I laid there about 30 minutes, and finally I get up, and I go to looking for him. Well, I stayed at the neighbors in a little apartment they had, and this horse was over at their house looking in the kitchen window. Anyway, I got him and I rode him back over there. And when Don got back, I told him, I said, that horse bucked me off. Well, Don, he didn't like him anyway, because he'd spur him and he'd walk over real slow and lay on the fence, you know. And it belonged to Tom Fox.
Tom Fox.
So Tom took him over to Shorty's. Well, that's all I heard about it. And but 2 years later, Tom shows up at the Sun Circuit and wins a non-pro on this horse.
What did that horse look like?
Sorrel, just plain sorrel.
Not very big. I mean,
No.
kind of just.
Comes back the next day, wins a non-pro. The third day, Tom's sitting on the fence watching the cutting. I said, Tom, where's your horse? He said, won't get in the trailer. And Don and Buster and Shorty all tried to load him in, never got him in the trailer again. He just said, no, I ain't going to go do it. But he was a bad-minded sucker. And had to, when Tom showed him and won those 2 non-pros, I mean, he was a pretty working son of a buck. But if you did anything at all to him, it pissed him off. If he didn't buck you off, he'd just go over there and lay on the fence.
Roy tells a story on Kenny on Delta Flyer. Roy tells a story on Kenny on Delta Flyer. He said, go over there. He wants to show me this horse. He's sitting in Donna, thanks for that. Kenny's first wife, or wife. She's loping. Kenny's working the pen, getting this pen perfect for this horse. Got a whole set of fresh cattle in there. He said he gets on him, draws him around there, bends, turns him around, he drives this cow out, and the cow goes one direction, and old Delta Flyer just stood there. Kenny turned him around, went back in and cut another cow, drove that cow out, put his hand down, Delta Flyer just never untracked. Kenny said, well, he don't want to work today. Put his ass up.
And people wouldn't think Kenny was ever like that.
Oh, no.
Like, they'd think he'd, but he wasn't.
No,
He's something else.
I never seen anybody feed horses like that guy.
Well, that whole Patterson family, they had a whole
Yep.
different deal where they did the feeding, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
They always looked fat and sassy.
One time, Kenny was showing one of them Jacquelinas, I think it was Jacquelina. There at the Sun Circuit, and he just went and did pretty good. And had got off and put his jacket on, but he hadn't zipped it up. And he's leading him along, and he runs into me, and he said, well, what do you think? So we're talking about him, and the whole time, this horse gets Kenny's jacket, and he starts wadding it up, and Kenny don't even notice until his arms are back here. That horse had that entire jacket, except for the sleeves, in his mouth. Kenny, he just gently got his mouth open, got it out of there, and then,
Remember
and Kenny,
that? He had that bay turnback horse, and he wouldn't tie him. He wouldn't wrap him or nothing. He just throw the bridle rein over the saddle horn. Well, this son of a bitch would eat every bridle rein in the arena up his own. Mm-hmm. I said, Kenny, your horse. Yeah, hell, they can probably afford another person. Oh, John White down at Houston. That turnback horse looked just like Kenny's show horse. And he had to help somebody. John did. And they said, well, just get that horse there. So he gets him, and somebody else immediately asked him to help them, Well, Sonny and Carter had got to Kenny and told him, said, hey, kind of ring him out and tell him that's your turnback horse. So he comes out there and he wore glasses. Kenny meets him right there. He said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I just borrowed your turnback." He said, "That's my show horse." He said, "I want you to know I don't appreciate it." And John's glasses just fogged over immediately. And he looks up and he sees Sonny and John Carter up there laughing, Got initials, CT. He tells this story. He had some hot dog from New York or something. He come down there and they go have a drink. Well, Kenny's in there and he's pretty gone. This old boy had his suit on. And he said, "We got to get this man to the room." And CT said, "No, we'll just leave that man alone. He's fine." Well, this old boy, he goes jacked around there and he finds a wheelchair. And he's going to pick him up. Well, he can't get behind him to pick him up, so he gets in front of him, and when he gets him picked up, Kenny just bites him on the tip.
That's Kenny.
He sets him in the chair.
In a wheelchair.
Yep, sets him in his wheelchair. Takes him to his room. And opens his door, and there's old Bill sitting in there, that border collie.
Oh, shit.
And so he said, CT told that guy, I said, "Leave that so much alone. Just leave him right here with the door open. Leave him here." "Oh, no, I got away with these dogs." And he reached down and pet that dog and just tore his whole coat off. This dog, Kenny stands up and said, "Oh, good
That
boy."
damn Bill. You're all right.
Well, guys, I think we're kind of shutting this deal down. Hope everybody enjoyed it. We could talk about this till tomorrow. Appreciate it.
Heck, we could go on and on, but
Yep. They're shutting us down, Gary. We're waiting. Where's the catering truck, did you say?
yeah, well, good luck with
I think he's
that.
got one to go show. We're going to have to shut down so he can go back
Oh, we
to
got to
work.
go follow you over here and video some working.
What's today, Friday?
You work on Fridays?
Yeah, well, I worked this morning, but I have to show, I don't know, won't know till tonight if I show tomorrow or the next
I got
day.
you. I got you.